It's working. And in theory, we're live, Jane. I'd better put the cameras on, hadn't I? We want to see everybody.
That always helps.
It really does. Good morning, Jane. We weren't sure if that was going to work because last week YouTube decided it wanted to know that I was able to verify myself. But it's let me do it this morning. It's clearly in a better mood.
Yeah.
I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good mood on account of having had a lovely weekend in the sunshine.
Nice.
Done some planting out in my garden, albeit not without casualty. Hands a bit
That's a
sore.
very sore hand.
I've done myself a mischief, but I had a lovely time really, even though I did do myself a bit of a mischief. In the sunshine, my garden's all planted out, my dahlias will be coming up and doing all their thing very, very soon, which is extraordinarily exciting. Jenny, it was your birthday weekend, wasn't it?
Well, yes, it was. My birthday was on Thursday, but
Yes.
yeah. I didn't do anything really at the weekend. It was rather nice.
Didn't need to, did you? Got a distraction in the house, haven't you?
Got a little kitten. Oh, no, baby.
New baby in the house, little tiny kitten. What is her name, Jane?
Her name is Bobbin. We chose Bobbin because at first we weren't sure if it was a girl or a boy. And we thought Bobbin fits. either
Certainly
gender.
does.
We've since found out she's a little girl. She's a little farm cat, which you wouldn't think because she's a beautiful
Oh,
grey
she's
tabby.
stunning.
Yeah. My husband works as a tanker driver, collecting milk.
He does.
And so he quite often goes to farms where there are lots of cats. And he said to me, there's one farm, he said they've got loads of kittens, and I was just jokingly, I said, well, you put one in your pocket and bring it home. Now, our dog's not very keen on cats.
No.
I think it's a territory thing, really, because she chases them out of the garden. Anyway, Glenn said, we're going to go and get one of these kittens. I've spoken to the farmer and we're going to go and get it. And I said, well, how do you think Daisy will be? And he said, well, we'll just see how she gets on and, we'll take it steady. And Daisy came in, took one look at her and barked at her, to which she went all like that. And since then, Daisy's rather frightened of her.
Which is the right way round. That's how it should be.
Distance, yeah.
Good, that's how it should be.
But we've given her lots of reassurance and told her that we still love her and she's still,
She'll get used to the idea. It'll be fine. And every stitchy witch needs their little cat, I feel.
Yeah.
Even if she's a little grey cat instead of a little black cat. If you're just joining us, good morning and welcome to Natasha Makes. She's not making today. I've got lovely Stitchy Witch Jane Alcock with me.
Magic Monday today.
It is Magic Monday. Jane had a birthday last Thursday. She's got a new kitten. That's pretty much brought you up to speed. Jane, I'm going to see what everyone's saying at home. Oh, your mother was first in. Straight in she was. She says, morning, girls. Morning, Kate. Ginny says, good morning, watching from my she shed. Oh, see, nice. Look. She says, welcome, Bobbin, as well. Morning, is Jane's mic on? Well, I hope so. We've done sound check and she was heard and everything. I mean, there's a way to find out, but it's not necessarily that graceful on camera. We'll wait to if you can go off camera, Jane. Have a little peek.
Little sidestep.
You're off. You're all right. Look in the screen. Double check.
Yeah, I've got a green light.
She's got a green light.
Have I got the right?
No, only one person said is Jane's mic on. She is significantly more quietly spoken than me.
Yeah, and it's not tucked itself.
You've got your loud mic on. We've got one that does transmit louder than the other, but I've got the quiet one on. But I have got the Brian Blessed of Craft voice, as Natasha calls it, which is lovely. Joy is with us, as is Jimmy and Pam, who says good morning, lovelies. Oh gosh, yes, we've got all sorts of people that have come along to say good morning to us today. So hello, good morning and welcome to you too. And over on YouTube we have Cynthia in Ohio, who says greetings and belated birthday wishes, Jane.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So you had a nice weekend.
I did.
Of being at home with your new kitten.
Yes.
Yes. Nice sunshine as well.
Yeah.
This was good also. I saw my stepdaughter, who's at uni, so she came back to see us for the weekend. That was lovely. Got all the laundry in all the world done.
Yes.
And lots of chores done on the Saturday, thankfully, because once I'd injured myself on the Sunday, I wasn't much use. Although I did prepare a nice meal yesterday and we had a nice al fresco afternoon with my parents. That was lovely.
Lovely.
Yes, I also popped to see Auntie Lizzie Crangle, because I was over at her neck of the woods dropping Gemma back. So hopefully she'll be along in a minute. Claire Everett says, morning all, hope you had a lovely birthday, Jane.
I did, thank you.
And Anne Albon says, morning ladies, looking forward to catching up when I have my lunch. Well, Anne, it's nice that you popped in to say hello. You can catch us up later. And for anyone who's new here, Our old shows, and there's over 3 years worth of them, are available on YouTube or our website, natashamakes.com. And you can catch today's show up later if you end up having to get dragged away by
It's all there on YouTube.
boring and important jobs that we all have to do here and there. That's absolutely fine as well. And our products are on our website as well. We do bring you the shows every week as free content, but how we get to stay here is the sales. That's how it is.
Yeah.
And we have this beautiful kit that Jane will show you that makes the fabulous quilt in the background.
Yes.
We also have very beautiful fabrics and a myriad of amazing instructions and projects that we've been writing and creating for 3.5 years. So fill your boots and thank you for your support. Jane, this is a beautiful make.
It is. It's a lovely make.
And it's not yours.
It's not my design.
Not this time.
It's Lynn Goldworthy's design.
It is.
She produces patterns for Macawa UK.
Yeah.
To promote their fabrics generally, but Macawa are very generous and let us use their patterns.
They do.
For any fabrics. So it has got some Macawa in the kit.
Yes, we have. Should we go overhead, Jane, and have a little look? Because this was from a collection called Michiko, which I loved these fabrics, and some of you may have them actually. I bought quite a few. I've got a little Michiko stash because I love Japanese things, Jane. You know I do.
You do.
So I've got a little Michiko stash at home, but what a lovely pattern.
It is a lovely pattern. It's very, there's lots of templates which are all there for you to copy onto template plastic, I would suggest.
Yes.
And all the cutting instructions are there. Now obviously our kit is slightly different from the instructions on here.
Yeah.
So I have done it in such a way that I was able to make this size, this 13 blocks,
Let's make sure the camera angle's changed. There we are.
13 blocks in that hanging. It's about 42 inch square.
It's lovely.
I also was able to make the cushion block. That's a 16 inch cushion with the border.
Yeah.
And I've also been able to make 4 more blocks for today's demonstration, and I've still got quite a bit of fabric left over.
Okay.
Now, you're not going to be able to make the full size that Lynn makes because that's 71 by 71.
It's a big one, isn't it? Mm.
So you'd probably be able to make another, well, you'd probably make 2 cushions and maybe another 4, 5 blocks.
Okay.
To make that bigger, should
so
you wish to.
You could definitely get, say, another 2 rows worth and a cushion.
Yes.
So if you wanted to make a longer quilt that was that width and a cushion, you could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And
so
it's lovely.
There's plenty in the kit. It doesn't limit you to that size. You can make it bigger.
Great. Perfect.
But you're not going to be able to make it as big.
Marvellous. And these fabrics are beautiful, Jane. So you've chosen to do this in some Lisa Chandler and a fabric range called Sevenberry.
Yes. Natasha had this fabric range in and it's rather lovely. And we thought it would look nice with the Lisa Chandler as well because of the metallics.
Yeah.
It's got a little flower motif. We've got that in the red and the black. And then the red's got geometric circles. And the black has like a star pattern going on.
Lovely, isn't it?
They're rather nice fabrics, and the colours, it's a muted red. It's more of a sort of scarlet colour rather than a bright red. And then we've got some of the Lisa Chandler's fans in dark red.
Oh, the Melba fan is one of my favourite fabrics.
And I was able to fussy cut that for the bottom half of the fan block. And then we've got the flowering gum in the black with the gold on of Lisa Chandler.
Great.
And then you've got 1/2 metre, they're all long quarters.
Wonderful.
You then have 1/2 metre of the small floral in golden cream.
Yes.
And a 1/2 metre of the our plain black. And I've used that for the binding as well as the base of the fans.
Perfect. And it looks great on the quilt actually, Jane, because it just frames it really nicely. And sometimes that's what you need, isn't it? Just a plain black.
Just gives it a nice frame.
Absolutely.
And then we have Macawa's linen texture in cream, which is just nice, sets it off nicely. It's got like a little bit of a grey tone to it, which is lovely.
Jane, the linen textures, tell us about those a little bit, because I mean, you could have used a plain for the background,
Yes.
couldn't you? But these are a little bit special, aren't they?
I love the linen textures from Macawa. They're not a solid. They've got like a linen. They look like linen, but they're
Should we
not
go
linen.
close up?
We can try and get the effect of them.
Well, hopefully see, because it's tricky, isn't it, when you try and show things on camera. Oh, there we go. Now you can see. So it gives
You
this
can
lovely
see that.
archival quality to it, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
and it's less. Let's bring it this way.
That's all right.
It's more got like a grey tone to it, like the linen
Yes.
effect. They do all sorts of different colours in their linen effect. There's some
And this is
beautiful
linen
colours.
effect in linen.
Yes.
That's the colour of this one. It's code Q linen
Yeah.
we've used.
I really like this. It's because it's not a solid, but it
Mhm.
gives the effect of a solid until you're quite close to it and you
Yeah.
get the effect. But it's not too distracting from the pattern,
No.
but just enough to give a little bit of texture to your quilt.
And I quite like the linen effects, the linen textures with Lisa Chandler fabrics. I always think they work really well because there's some shading in Lisa's fabrics,
there
isn't
is.
there?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
having the linen textures and
It
linen
just
effect fabrics,
mirrors it nicely.
it really does. Oh, you've got a bit of something lovely there as well.
Yeah, there's a bit of half metre of Bondaweb
I
in
love a bit of
there,
Bondaweb, me.
and it'll become clear why you need Bondaweb.
Yep.
And then you've got your template plastic. There's 2 sheets of A4 template plastic in
Marvellous.
there, which is should be enough to get all your templates from.
Perfect.
If you cut them properly. I didn't cut mine quite right, so I've got a cardboard template for one of mine.
But if
I
you
didn't think
are,
about my placement on my plastic sheet.
if you're potentially like Jane, then we do have the option to purchase the template plastic separately as well.
Yes.
And it is one of those things that we use an enormous amount, especially Natasha with her smaller makes.
Yes.
You know, if you're buying a pattern from us and Natasha has a purse template, for example, just get your template plastic, trace it off, cut
It's
it
always
out.
worth-
You will thank yourself.
Yeah, it's always worth having template plastic in
Always.
your stash, because if you're making a quilt like this, if you were to try and do it with the paper patterns, eventually they're going to become distorted,
Yeah.
made smaller over time, all of that.
Yeah.
Whereas your template plastic, you've got them there, you can make as many blocks of this as you can, as you wish,
Yeah.
and you've got them for future reference, because you may come across later on, there may be a fabric that you think, oh, this is going to work really well with that pattern that I had before. Because I think quite often we find that we'll make a pattern
Mhm.
and we'll love it, and
Yeah.
we'll do it more than once in different fabrics.
Yeah.
Because I was doing this and I thought, oh, it's a shame we haven't got more of the Tilda left, because this would look really nice in our new Tilda collection.
That's how it is, isn't it? This
Yeah.
is what we do.
There isn't much of it left, is there now? So,
Nope.
yeah, but you know, there's that Oriental style in
Yeah.
there as well. But Tilda's lends itself beautifully.
Can you imagine you'd get a completely different looking
You're
quilt
right,
with the
it would look
Tilda?
completely different.
Completely different. It'd be
Absolutely.
beautiful though. And Jane, just to reiterate, you know, if someone did want to make a big quilt, so they're buying this kit,
Yes.
and they're going to get the instructions for free because it's a free pattern. We've printed them out for you and we're not charging anything for those. The printing's on us. But if they get this kit to make this particular quilt and they love it, then all they're going to need is 6 long quarters of their favourite fabrics
Yes.
and a ½ metre of the one that's going to be consistently through a lot of
Yes.
the fans.
Yeah.
So that small floral is what you've used
Yeah.
here in the gold. And then some plain for their binding, which was another ½ metre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And a really decent chunk of background fabric. So say a
Yes.
couple of metres would
Yeah.
be the right thing to do. Because this
yeah.
is one I think people are going to want to make time and again.
I think so. You may be off put by curve piecing, but you don't need to be, because Lynn gives you lots of hints and tips, and she's put little marks on her patterns so that you can match up like darts. So if you can
Great.
see on here with the long curve which forms the outside of the fan,
Okay.
we can just go over.
Yeah, let's go overhead and have a look at that. Does help, doesn't it? I'm looking. I can see everybody. As long as I can see,
there's
it's
little
fine.
marks here. Now, on my templates, if I can just find my templates, I made holes in my templates with a darning needle, just so that I could get a marker through the holes. So you can see I've lined those up and I've put the marks on there. You could put little notches in the seam allowance if you felt that was easier for you.
Nice.
And they marry up, not with that, they don't marry up with that, but I'll show you in a moment how they all marry up together.
Great.
So there's all those things to help you with curved piecing. It's not difficult, you just need to take your time, and I'll go through all the processes that I do to make sure that I've got everything centred and everything.
Great.
As I say, all your templates are in the instructions, and get those all traced off onto your template plastic, and it should be okay.
Fabulous.
This is the one that I cut on my, you can see, it doesn't quite fit onto the sheet of template plastic, but you could join it, or you could do what
Natasha's done that. She's joined template plastic before. Yeah.
It joins nicely, keeps it nice and regular, but I've put that onto some firm card, joined the paper pattern and glued that onto the card and then cut round it.
Great. Jane, over on YouTube we have Jay Wolf saying, and this is a very important part of the show, loving Jane's necklace.
Oh, thank you.
It's a great necklace, this one, isn't it?
It's a sewing machine one. I've had it because Gemma said to me, "Oh, was that a birthday present?" I said, "No, Glenn bought it me quite a while ago, one of the Christmases." So I've had it a while. It's
lovely.
Tatty Divine.
Yes.
I love her stuff because it's bold and beautiful.
Yeah. No point having anything delicate on when we're on there either, because you're not going to see it.
No,
so if we're going to do some jewellery, let's go big or go home.
Big or go, absolutely.
Jane, a few more messages from the viewers. We have Laurie saying, "Morning, girls. Hope you had a lovely birthday, Jane."
I did, thank you, Laurie.
She did, and a lovely new kitten. Debbie says, "Morning, ladies. Another beautiful day and beautiful quilt." So true, so true. Silver says, "Oh, she thinks she looked like you might be in a bit of discomfort, Jane. You hurt your back or anything?" She's probably just slouching a bit. It's all right. We both do this. I'm sat.
It's Monday morning.
I know. I'm sat because I'm a bit. Perhaps she means me. Good morning, everyone, says Donna. She loves the quilt as well. Leslie Freeman says, "What another glorious day." Ginny says, "Good morning, everyone. Such a beautiful day. Wind is blowing. Loads of washing. Washing machine on its third load." That was me on Saturday. I tell you, I was like a woman possessed. The washerwoman of Bidford, that was me. Hopefully those clouds will whiz past, says Ginny as well. Yeah, you need those to happen because you've got to get that laundry out, in and turned around quickly, haven't you?
Yes,
Make the most of a sunny day. I think that was the first point at which I knew I was middle-aged, Jane, was when I woke up one morning and thought, "Oh, fabulous, I'll strip the beds." The minute I saw the sunshine.
Washing day.
Yeah, rather than thinking, "Where's my crop top and my little shorts?" Yeah. I was like, "Oh, brilliant, get the sheets on the line." Honestly, dear me. Auntie Lizzie is with us and she says, "Good morning, lovelies. I'm catching up with Mrs. C. We are present now, miss." Good, well done. Glad you're here. Grace says, "Good morning, everyone. Happy birthday, Jane." And she's got no problem with your sound. So
no, that's good.
Jane is more quietly spoken than me. I shall perhaps use my quiet indoor voice if I can find one. Chris Cresswell says, "Morning, Jane. Morning, Gemma. The quilt is gorgeous."
Thank you, Chris.
And that's the thing. What you've done here, Jane, is a completely different look to the one that was intended on the pattern.
Yeah, it's using different fabrics, so it gives a different effect.
Absolutely, but it does really, these fabrics do lend themselves to this. They really do. And the fact that you've got a nice bit of the Lisa dark red fans in there as well is brilliant. I have put this kit on an introductory offer, and it is an introductory offer. Natasha's on her way from Cornwall. Can't remember whether I had time to ask her if I could put it on an introductory offer. But she shouldn't leave me in charge.
She might make it go back to what it should be tomorrow.
Yes, who knows. So if you want the kit, then please do grab it while you can, because we don't have unlimited possibilities of this as well. Yep. As always, our kits are limited. Yeah, she says, "Oh, crikey, Jane, this is Chris. Not more curves. I'm wrestling with those as I'm watching." There are ways and means, and there are things to help you, which Jane is going to show everybody now. Oh yes, Sylv's had a crazy washing machine session as well over the weekend. Honestly, the sunshine and breeze together though, perfect drying weather. You can't pass that up.
No, you can't give it up, can you? No, absolutely not.
Jimmy is quietly spoken and is often told to speak up. Yeah, well, I'm not, Jimmy, so... You'll have no problem hearing me. Jane, I'm going to go overhead because I do think everyone needs to see how this comes together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the blocks.
You can see here that there's two styles of block. One
Yes.
is made with a complete piece of fabric using template A, and that's the one I use for the Lisa Chandler. That does not mean that you have to do that. You could use one of your 7 berries if you like. There is equal amounts of each.
Great.
Now, what I will say to you that it is that I was all like gung-ho and just got on with it and thought, oh, I'll be economical with my fabric and I'll cut my Lisa Chandler fans, and I placed it on, you know, trying to get the most. And then it suddenly dawned on me when I'd cut it all out and looked at it that really you need to think about the direction of the fans.
You want a
to
fan
get
of
the
fans.
the best effect. So just be mindful of that. And obviously by doing that, you can't really get 2 from the width of the fabric. You might, if you go that way, you're going to end up with your fans facing a different way.
Yeah.
So this one...
Just make use of the excess in your EPP stash.
Well, you're going to need it for your
oh, of course, a
tail
little
part
bit.
of your fan
Yes.
there. And again, you can fussy cut that, which is quite good and fun. But that is the only one that I sort of had to consider when I was making my templates. And of course, if you're doing it from the blades, because the other one is made up of 5 blades.
Oh, yes.
Again, just think about your direction of your fan. On the others, I was able to do one facing up and one going down.
Yeah.
But obviously with these, you wouldn't necessarily want that effect.
No.
So again, just think about that when you're cutting your pieces out. That's the only thing I will say about the Melba fans, because otherwise it's just gorgeous fabric and you've got to use it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So that's the only one that sort of I had to consider with those. You've got your plain fabric, which you do on all of the blocks, the inside part of the base of the actual fan, and then you've got this little corner piece, and you can choose which fabric you're going to have there. On my bladed fans, I chose to have different fabrics depending on what I was doing. You can mix and match it. On this one I chose to have the same that was in the middle blade, but on some of the others I've chosen to have the flower. It's entirely up to you. And on these ones I've chose to have the same fabric, but again, you could mix and match them up, it's fine.
Of course you could. Bit of creative license.
Yeah. So your templates, all the instructions are there telling you how to cut your templates out, which bits to cut from where, and the shapes that you need. For the base little part of the fan here, you actually do that by bonding your fabric onto your shape.
Oh, so that isn't some awkward curved piecing there then, that little
Not so
tiny
much,
one?
No.
Ah.
So, for example, on this one, we'll bond onto there, and we will do a fan. You can see this is my miscut piece.
Oh yes.
You can see that would, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but my OCD can't cope with that, so I had to recut them.
But if yours can, then go for it, guys. This is not a problem.
But you see, I can, because I can see through the bond web, I can place that over one of the fans, so that I get. You're not going to get the whole thing in because of your seam allowance, but I can place that so that I've got that over one of my fans. Now, Bond-A-Web comes, it's got an adhesive side which feels rather rough and a paper side. When you're drawing your template out, I think I've got mine, I had mine here. It is template D. So you place your Bond-A-Web adhesive side down, so rough side down, and trace the shape onto the paper side. Just use an ordinary pencil to trace that around, and then you will place your adhesive side, the rough side, down onto the wrong side of your fabric. And as I say, I can see here where that comes to. You may not be able to see it quite so well on the camera. And then you press that onto the wrong side of your fabric. You don't need a steam, just a dry iron will do. You may want to use one of the Teflon pressing mats that Natasha's got in there, really good, just to protect the base of your iron. And we'll do the same with this one. And this one I'm not so worried about the placement of the pattern, doesn't really matter so much, but I'm just going to do it that way. And once I've got that done, I will then cut around the shape on the drawn line. So the reason I don't cut the drawn line first, I roughly cut around it before I bond it onto the back of the fabric, is because I don't want to lose any of the adhesive. The adhesive comes up to the edge, and sometimes if you've cut it, you won't get all of the adhesive going right to the edge. So you just want to make sure that you've got it going all the way around, which is why you then cut it afterwards on the drawn line. And we'll just cut around that shape like so. So there we are. We will then, you've got these pieces here which are cut at the same time as you cut the outside curved piece. Now they're not square, so you just need to make sure that you've got them in the right orientation. What you will find is that they won't fit that way. I don't know if you can just see that. They're just a little bit bigger. They go onto the shorter, if you like, side. Okay. And they do fit onto there. So to remove the backing paper, rather than trying to flick the paper off with my nail, I take a pin and I just scratch it somewhere in the middle of the paper until it sort of goes pale and your pin goes under the paper. You can see that, that's how that goes. And just flick that then, and that releases the paper, and I can peel that off. If you try and flick it with your nail at the edge, you're quite likely to fray your fabric.
We don't want that.
Well, it just doesn't give a very nice finish. That's one of the main things. And you'll line that up with the edge of your fabric, and you bond that piece on.
Nice.
Now I then sewed that down with a blanket stitch on my machine.
Oh, fab.
But you could do free motion line if you wished. Just grab the iron and just bond those on there and there. So that's, I could have cut that better than that, but that's fine. Just a blanket stitch just around that area. You don't have to worry about this side, because that's going to go into your seam allowance, so that's going to be caught in the seam allowance. But that just needs to be sewn over somehow. You could use a zigzag, satin stitch, blanket stitch, fancy embroidery stitch on your machine. You could just do a free motion line just inside, however you wish to finish that. But it really does, even with Bonder Web, over time, it will, through washing it will come unbonded if you don't sew it down. So
Jane, I was really hoping to have a go at this block this weekend. Yes. I really was. And it would have been yesterday afternoon, and then what did I do to my hand? Yeah. But now I'm seeing that little bit as well. That was the one part of it that I thought that's going to be a little bit finicky, piecing that little tiny curve, but you don't have to.
You see, because I made that mistake with my piecing, I'm not able to get another one of those out. So I'm going to use some of my leftover flower fabric and cut that long piece to show you how the other block goes together.
Okie dokie.
So it's just a case of tracing it onto your fabric. Now I used one of our Sew Line chalk pens. I did try it with the iron off marker.
Okay.
But then once I'd ironed one side,
Oh,
I lost my marks
of course
on
you
the other
did.
side. So
Yep.
that's probably not the best pen to use. You could use an ordinary pencil.
We
as
have
well.
white marking pencils as well, don't we? The dressmakers chalk pencils.
Yes, they're really lovely.
And very inexpensive as well, actually. I tend to have a few of those in different bags and places because you can never lay your hand on them when you want them, can you?
Well, this is the trouble.
And they're literally £1.49, everybody. Just a little heads up there.
And they're great to have because it washes away or it brushes off. It's it's not a permanent mark.
Well, and being white, you can see the marks on your black and dark fabrics as well, which again can be an issue, can't it?
But do we have the Soline ones?
I'm going to check and see whether we've
'Cause
got
we
a few
have
of
them
those
in
because those are
blue and in pink, I think.
yeah,
And they are really good and they're
oh,
refillable.
incredible.
They're refillable, so they're good. And as I said, I just pushed my pencil through the holes I'd made with the darning needle just to mark
Jane,
the spot.
we have got a couple of the blue one that you've got in your hand.
Yeah.
The Soline Trio, which is the one that you can buy the refills for, we don't have. That one is
Right.
tricky to get hold of.
Well, it's
We will do our
Soline
best.
product, isn't it? And
But
we all know that
they are brilliant, these.
But the
But
white,
we only have a
the
couple
white
left.
pencils, the chalk pencils are fabulous too.
Yeah.
So you take that off, and I can see the mark, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bolder so that I can see it. Just so that I've got those points for joining up my pieces onto my other template. And I will do the same with the inner part for the black as well. So again, I've got my template with my markers on there. Just place that on. Now, I would, generally speaking, if I've got a straight edge, I will try and line that up with the grain of fabric, just to prevent any stretch as much as possible. Now, there's only really one straight edge here on this side or on this side. Obviously with curves you're going to have a little bit of play, and actually that little bit of play helps when you're joining it together sometimes. So I didn't put the markers on. I was always doing that, and then you come to it and you're like, oh, I can't see the joins. So again, I just made a hole with my darning needle just to make where the marks were, just because it needed to be big enough to get the pencil through. There we go.
There we go. I've got the little white pencil and the Soline blue pencil as well, both tagged into today's collection. The good thing with the blue, Jane, is if you were using it on a white fabric, it will still show up.
Yes.
And I know that sounds like perhaps a little obvious, but if you did pick up our very pocket-friendly white pencil, just bear in mind that will not be the case.
It'll be ideal for the coloured fabrics.
Yeah.
But I actually just used an ordinary pencil on my linen one because one, it washes out, and two, it doesn't really show anyway because all the marks and everything are within your seam allowance, so it's not going to show through.
There is also a Soline fabric eraser. I think we may have one of those left in stock, so I've popped that on today too.
And then the blades are done in exactly the same way, just lining those up. And as I say, with all of the fabrics apart from the Melba fan, there's no sort of directional to think about, so you can draw around. And I just, because I made this smaller than the actual pattern, I just thought about how many blocks I wanted to make. So I was just looking at the pattern and I just thought, oh right, well I could go 3 across and 3 up. So that was counted how many blocks that was, and that's 13. And then worked out accordingly how many I was going to do which were the full size and how many I was going to do with which were the blades. You can of course alternate your blade template if your fabric's not directional, by one up, one down,
Mhm.
or working your way along the fabric.
Nice
It's
and
quite
space saving,
straightforward
isn't
to
it?
do. Yeah.
Jane, we've got a couple of latecomers.
Oh, right.
Little apologies coming in, but Karen Hughes says, morning girls, sorry I'm late. That's okay. And Sue Langford, I mean, she's just winning at life this morning. She says, top of the morning, beds changed, cleaning finished for the day, and all is right with the world. I mean, we bow down to you. We salute you. All done.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get
Amazing.
beds and stuff done because, of course, Glenn works night, so it's
Yes.
a bit awkward.
I want to throw him out the
Throw
bed.
him out the bed and
Get out of the bed so I can clean it.
yeah. So bless him, he'll probably do that on his days off.
Oh, how domesticated. We love that.
Yeah, he's a good old stick. He will do his share, bless him. Probably more than his share, he would say.
Sylv said, if you're careful, how many blocks would you be able to get out of one kit, Jane? You did say earlier, didn't you? There's 13 in the quilt behind us. You've done a cushion, so that makes 14.
I've done 4. I've already done 2. I'm going to do 2 more, so that's 4. So that's
18 blocks.
And you'd probably get a couple more. So you could probably get 20 blocks if you're careful and don't cut it wrong like I did. I make the mistake
A fair
so you
few,
don't have
Sylv.
to, you see.
A fair few.
I make the mistake so you don't have to. And what I did was I'd alternated. So some of them, like this one, I've got 2 of the red flowers and 1 of the geometric, and then in the others I've done 2 geometric and 1 flower. So again, you can alternate that, or you could make them all with flowers and all with geometric. Again, there's that option for you to do your own little design choices on it, whichever you wish to do. And of course then I've used the gold mini floral, small floral to go in between. So I'll just cut this larger circle, half semicircle through. I did it all with scissors. When you've got straight lines, you can of course line your ruler up and use your rotary cutter. If you've got dexterity problems and scissors make your hands ache, use your rotary cutter for all the straight lines. Just simply line up your ruler, she says, and she didn't bring it in. She did. She did. Line up your ruler against your straight edge there.
Marvellous.
And just take your rotary cutter along that edge. You'll need to go just a little bit past your marked bits, and then you can cut the rest of it with your scissors. I wouldn't recommend cutting a curve with a rotary cutter, but they do it on Sewing Bee, so who am I to say? If you feel confident enough, just please keep your fingers out of the way.
Oh, Karen's got one eye on us and one eye on her husband. He's cutting down a storm-damaged tree.
Oh dear.
She's suspecting he may star in 24 Hours in A&E one of these days. Karen, my parents affectionately refer to my husband as Frank Spencer. So
yeah, a little bit accident prone.
He is. I think a fair few of us are old enough to remember Frank Spencer. Young SJ doesn't, so we have to educate her in these things. But he really is accident prone. So I have absolute sympathy for you and your nerves this morning.
You'll also have your side templates to cut from your background fabric. Now, to save time, what you can do is you can place your fabric right sides together, draw around one of your templates, and then you'll get the mirror image.
Yeah.
That will save you time. And again, this is all straight lines, but just don't be fooled into thinking that this is a straight line at the top.
Yeah.
Because it isn't. It slightly slants down, and this one slightly slants down as well. So yes, draw around it, and then use your rotary cutter to cut it out.
Jane Sylv's just following up her previous question about the kit.
Yes.
Saying, so you could probably squeeze the whole quilt out of 2 kits. I reckon there's 41 blocks on the cover page of the pattern.
Yes,
there is 41 blocks, and we've calculated the fabric with the view that you'd be able to do the full kit if you bought a full quilt if you did 2 kits.
Yeah.
Just cut carefully, and yes, you should be fine. And you'll have more than enough background fabric as well, won't you? There'll be plenty of the macaw in there for that.
I think in
but if you do buy 2, pop a note.
Here, the background fabric, I'll just find it because it's there we are, it says background. they've said 3.75
Yes.
metres. So if you bought 2 kits, you'd have 4 metres,
metres,
so you will
yeah.
have enough.
So just if you want to have it cut as one continuous length, just make sure when you order 2 kits that you say, please cut us a continuous length.
It doesn't need to be continuous because you're cutting it up
No.
anyway, but
It's
yeah,
nice to have,
we will
isn't it?
cut it.
We will where we can. If perhaps you've already ordered one, I've seen this, if someone's ordered one and then ordered another one a bit later and you're thinking, I would like that cut together, pop us an email, info@natashamakes.com, and let us know you'd like it cutting as one continuous piece.
Yeah.
If not, and you want it kept as 2 separate kits, just leave it. And,
Yeah, that's fine.
Or pop us an email either way and let us know, and then we'll know where we're at.
So now we're going to sew that onto there. When you're looking at that and you're like, well, that's not going to work.
No.
But it does.
Confused, Jane.
So this is how I made sure. You've got your notches anyway. You've got your
Mhm.
marks, which you can join together. But I
Yeah.
also like to just fold that in half and
Yes.
finger press it. Right sides together.
Great.
So I've got a little crease in it. And then this one, wrong sides together. Little crease. And then I can line those 2 creases up. And then I know for certain I've got this
Yes.
central in the middle.
Because that's your starting point, isn't it? Once
I
that's
think
in
so.
place.
Once you've got that, you should be
Yeah.
okay. I will then take my straight edge here and line it up with the straight edge there.
Okay. Oh,
Pop a
Karen
pin in
says,
along there.
hope he's not so much accident prone as just a little too gung-ho at times. I think that's equally dangerous, actually, isn't it?
Yes, gets a little overconfident. And yeah. Mine was miscutting of fabric, not when I'm cutting down a tree. And then
No.
you can line up the notch there with the notch on the opposite side. Pop in your pin through and through. There we go. Just pop the pin in there and do the same with this notch here.
And it looks like it's not going to fit, doesn't it, when you start this
Yeah.
bit? But actually,
But those
it comes
of you
together.
who are dressmakers and insert sleeves,
Yes.
you'll find this quite straightforward and you'll be like, why is she making such an issue about joining up 2 curves?
Perhaps you did Jane's Candy Medallion quilt. There was a block that I had to do this on, I remember.
Yes.
And I was doing this
And I was like,
as
"Yeah,
a very much
curves."
beginner, had not done a curved seam before, and it was absolutely fine.
It's straightforward. Once you've, and you know, if you want to add more pins, you know, put a pin in between, you can. And as I was saying, because this is on a curve, you've got a little bit of easement of fabric in
Yes.
there. So you can add more pins in if you wish to. And then you take it to your machine and you sew 1/4 inch in. Now, it's just a case of taking it nice and steady and take the pins out as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing a little bit at a time, a few stitches, and turning your fabric at the same time. Just make sure your fabric underneath doesn't get caught up.
No. Oh, poor Karen. She says, ladders plus chainsaw, I'm not looking. My mum sold my dad's chainsaw after she'd seen him trying to cut some conifers standing on the top of a ladder wielding said
Oh my
chainsaw.
gosh. What is it
Maniac.
with men and
Then why do they
chainsaws?
do this? Like a maniac he was. He gave the neighbours a fright and everything.
So then it's just a case of pressing that down. It wants,
Lovely.
you just sort of think about your fabric. I like to press it towards the larger of the curves, but sometimes your fabric wants to go the other way, and if that's what it wants to do, let it do that.
Yeah, don't fight it. Just asking for trouble if you fight it, aren't you?
Just gets, so that's that part.
Oh, look.
And then you've got the same principle. You've got your 4 notches here and your 4 notches along there. And I do the same again. I'll fold this in half. finger press it to get a crease. And then fold this one in half, wrong sides together, right sides on that one, wrong sides on this one. Just finger press that there, just get a little crease in it. And then I know that that's the middle, and again I can line that up. And we do the same thing again. I line up my edges either side. And it doesn't matter which way round your pins are, because it's whatever's easiest for you. And then line up these notches. Oops, just move slightly. On that side. Just ease it slightly. You've got a little bit of give because it's a curve, so you can just manipulate it and make it fit. And then you can put a couple, because it's quite a wide gap between, I would put another couple of pins in just to be sure that it's in the right place. And then do the same on the other side. Just ease that round, pin in that mark there, and pin on the opposite side. You can just about see that chalk mark there. Obviously, when the chalk pencil, the more you handle your fabric, the more likely you are to rub your chalk off. So just bear that in mind if you're going to be handling it a lot. And then I'm just going to put another pin in just between that space there. Oops. And that space there. And then again, just a case of taking your time, making sure you haven't got any tucks or pleats in your fabric.
Oh, Jane, Chris says, it's so great to see you doing what I'm doing at the same time, but with a much smaller shape. So she's working with a 2.5 inch.
Yes.
But she's seeing you following the same process.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier with a bigger shape, Chris, but...
There's a lot of ladder-related conversations here as well, Jane.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Lots of ladder-related conversations and concerns. Sylv says, thank God him indoors leaves anything requiring equipment to me. That sounds like our marriage, to be honest. And Danny says, who is standing on the bottom of the ladder? Which is a very valid point, well made, I feel. Dear me.
I never worry about ladder-related things with Glenn, obviously, because he's a ex-firefighter, so I'm quite confident with him up ladders.
Yeah.
With a chainsaw, maybe not so much.
No.
But,
it's the addition of the chainsaw that adds that... adds that extra element there, isn't it? Sylv says that her other half can operate a hoover or a dustpan and brush, but anything else is above his pay grade. He's even scared to use the washing machine. Now, this sounds so familiar, Sylv. Guy can press the button to switch the dishwasher on, but heaven forbid it should need rinse aid or salt. It's either that or he's doing a very good job of finessing me for the last 17 years into thinking that he's not capable.
well, I think there is a line of thought, isn't it, that some men deliberately do it wrong so they'll never be asked to do it again.
Yep. I don't think that's the case with him, bless him. I think he's just a bit baffled by anything technical.
I've pressed it, although I would want it really to be pressed towards the dark side.
Yeah.
It prefers to go that way, and it doesn't show too much.
It's a good quality fabric, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not like you've got a very sheer background fabric here.
You're going to get the bit of the shadow from your cream showing through, and if any of the red does show through, you can always just go back in and just snip it a little bit back.
Pinking shears or whatever.
Yeah, just to reduce any shadow. So that's that part. And then you've got your two straight edge pieces. The inclination is to put the wider part on the outside. When you look at it, you think, oh yeah, it goes like that, but it doesn't actually. it goes like that. Sorry, with the straighter edge. The wider edge
gotcha.
towards the middle. Because this piece is then going to be sewn on there.
Gotcha.
So if you look at it, you've got your straight edge there.
Yeah.
That goes to the outside.
Yes.
And your slant goes towards the fan.
Makes sense.
So the one side, it's just straightforward, line it up, flip it over. You may want to put pins in it to hold it down, but it is literally just sewing it edge to edge. If you've got any little extra bits that have decided that they're going to curve slightly or, waver, this is the point where you can hide them in the seam. Got the foot the wrong way round, so it's decided to cut the thread.
Oh,
Love it when it
it's
does
a very
that.
cleverly programmed
But
pedal. Yeah.
Yes.
But Natasha's got it there so she can click the back of it and it'll cut the thread. It's not how Jane has hers programmed. Sue
you get
Langford.
used to it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You get used to your own machine and how it's set up, don't you? Sue says, I slipped on my bottom down the stairs carrying the vacuum cleaner. I ended up like that video of the flying squirrel positioning himself in a dramatic death scene pose under the broom. And Karen says that her dad did the whole doing things wrong, so he never had to do it again. He once said he couldn't hang wallpaper because he was left-handed. Now, I applaud him and his attempts there, however. It's not specifically men either. I don't want anyone to think we're men bashing here at all.
No.
I have several very fabulous female friends who have done a glorious job of not being able to do things, quote, not being able to do things
Oh, I can't
so that they're
possibly
done
do
for
that,
her.
yeah.
Meg
Yeah.
definitely can't fold clothes. She can't fold. She's 18, but she can't fold. Nor can she wash a car. Daddy,
Yeah.
Daddy, wash my car, please, Daddy. Seriously, there's plenty of that out there as well.
And sometimes there's somebody in your family that loves doing that task, because
Yes.
Guy quite likes
Yeah.
doing the cars, doesn't he? So
This is what we do. We try and
you
trade.
sort of-
We trade services around
Yeah.
our place. You do this for me, I'll do that for you. I think that's best.
So now we're going to sew that piece onto there, and they line up like so.
Oh, amazing! Look at this.
All of this is diagrams beautifully
Yeah.
in the instructions.
Good, Jane, because I feel as much as actually this is going together quite simply, some of the angles that you're putting things together and then they look a bit skew. Because if you
Yeah.
see that where you've got it folded now, I don't know if we can go overhead or close up even actually, you could have a look, couldn't you? That might make me, if I didn't know, go, oh, hang on, have I
That's not
done this
lined up.
wrong?
Yeah.
But it's not wrong because when you
No.
fold it out and press it, that's going to form a straight line, isn't it,
Can you
Jane?
see? Whoop. Bring it down.
There, see? So I'm very glad of your demo, Jane,
Yes.
because I think I'd have been going, oh, not
Yeah,
sure.
because you
Am I
feel a
doing
bit-
this right?
It's not quite.
It's counterintuitive,
Yeah.
isn't it, when you're used to working with straight line
Absolutely.
pieces.
So that piece now, and I've pressed
Lovely.
that seam that way, and that
Yeah.
seam goes that way. So although they don't nestle as such, you've got a point there where they do,
Yes.
and you can just line that up with that seam there, and line that up there. And again, you may at this point just want to put a couple of pins in just to hold it in place while you take it to the machine so it doesn't move. And again, this edge here doesn't line up with that one, so don't be thinking, oh no, I've cut that wrong. It will, when it's folded down, it becomes a square.
Yes. Fabulous. Jane, Chris says, such clever manipulation. And I can't decide whether she means your manipulation of the fabric to get
Or
that
as of
wonderful
our men
curve,
folk.
or whether she's talking about, some of the menfolk we've discussed and my daughter and various other friends who've done a very good job of finessing their partners and relatives into thinking that they're not capable of things.
I think
Clever
there's a few
manipulation
of us-
always round, Jane.
I think there's a few of us girls that have played on our father-daughter relationship
Yeah.
for things
I
to be
never have got away with that.
or made for us.
Yeah, I'd have never have got away with that. Not in a month of Sundays.
It wasn't long before my boys worked out that Grandad could fix it.
Yeah.
One of the earliest phrases was, Grandad fix it.
Oh, that's so
Bit of a
lovely.
DIY expert.
It's actually his name, I believe. Grandad Fix It. There we go. You see, you have to differentiate them somehow, don't you? I had a big granddad and little granddad. But Grandad Fix It works, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Quite like that.
Unfortunately, only had the one set.
Oh. Yeah, my friend is now Nanny Strawberry because she always gives her granddaughter strawberries whenever she sees her. So she's Nanny Strawberry.
So that's that one.
Look at
That comes together, and
that.
you can see when
So
you're lining it up, it
nice.
gives it a nice crisp
Yeah,
join
lovely.
there. So the other one is done in the same way, but you've got blades to join together first.
Yes.
So decide on your pattern for your blades, if you like. I'm going to have mine like so. I'm going to then join these two together in pairs. And we can chain piece these. I mean, you can cut all of your blades that you need to cut for your
Yes.
fans, however many you're doing. And you can chain piece like this.
Fabulous. Saves on thread, saves on time.
All of that. All of that.
Great.
What I would say to you is have a go at making one block of each first
Yes.
and then crack on. I'm going to press that towards the red
Great.
just because I like it going towards the dark side. You may decide you want it another way. It's entirely up to you. So I've got those two together. I'm going to add that one onto this one.
Yep. Fabulous. Oh, Karen is definitely not standing on the bottom of the ladder. She says she's done that in the past and she's got walloped with bits of falling tree. So she's staying safely behind her sewing machine. I can't blame you. Bless. Pam is just checking that Sue wasn't hurt with the fall a la squirrel. She informs us she wasn't, just her pride
No,
and her dignity.
probably got quite a bruised coccyx from it. I did the same thing. Went top to bottom, bump, 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 down my bum. And my coccyx was quite painful for quite a while. So now I'm going to join those two together. This just prevents distortion, really, because you've got fabric cut on the bias slightly. It's a slight bias. So if you do it in pairs and then add the last one on, you've got less chance of your fabric distorting as you sew. And the weight of it won't distort either as you know, if you sew one blade onto the next blade onto the next blade, you've got the opportunity of it stretching and the weight of it distorting the fabric.
Righto.
So this time, I don't know if you can see the marks I've got here, but they line up with the seams on the blade.
Clever.
So you're going to do that. You can do the same thing as I did before. You find the middle of your fan.
Mm-hmm.
Do a little press there. Got a little crease in it here, and do the same on here. Wrong sides together. And just line those two up. Then you can pop a pin in along there. And then you've just you've got, I still lined up my edges first.
Yes. I suppose
on
if there was
both
any
sides.
teeny weeny discrepancies in
Yeah,
your
if your
seams here, this
seam
is where it
allowance
would find
Gone a
it.
little bit awry on one, it's not the end of the world.
But this is where it would come out, isn't it?
Yeah. And then this notch here lines up with that seam. Along there. And that notch lines up with that seam underneath. So you haven't got notches to match on both sides, you're just lining it up with the seam basically. And you can feel the seam underneath. Let's give it a little bit of a squidge underneath just to make it move up and down. And again, I would probably put another pin in just along there just to hold it together while I sew it. And it doesn't matter really how many pins you put in, as long as you know you feel comfortable with it. There's no rule that says you can only use 4 pins or whatever.
No.
If you want to put a pin in every 1/4 of an inch, just because
Yeah.
it makes you feel better, and maybe for the first few you want to do that, and as you get used to sewing them, you'll put less pins in. It's entirely
Maybe.
up to you. Nobody's watching you.
Nope. And you can take your time with this as well, Jane. It's not.
You can do
It's not one that you're going to throw through at high speed necessarily. Each block, is it?
it's not fast piecing. You'll do a few at a time. Take your time. You might, this is probably not a weekend quilt, one that you're going to get together over the weekend. You might find that you really love it and you just keep making them, and before you know it, you've got all your blocks made. But yeah, this is a take your time one, and one that you might put to one side for a while you do a little quick project and then go back to.
Oh, Jane, Sue feels she didn't damage herself going down the stairs on her bottom.
That's good.
She says that she was well padded on her landing point there. Health and safety tip for us all, she says, is to make sure that you've got a decent rump on which to bounce.
But I've still managed to catch my coccyx.
Ouchies.
Yeah. So this time the fabric's telling me it wants to go towards.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
You'll do as you're told, won't you, Jane?
Yeah.
Because you're a good girl.
And then we do exactly the same. Add this one onto there. And we're just going to find the middle again. Right sides together, lining up that little notch that I've creased that I've made, and again you've got here the notches that you've marked line up with the seam line.
Marvellous.
But again, I would put the end pieces on first.
Okay. Yeah, you want the edges of your block to sit nice and square, don't you?
Do really. I mean, you can always trim them a little bit if you
Yeah.
feel that they've gone, a little bit awry, but I think it all helps it just ease in and it all fits.
Jane, putting the pin in the middle and then matching the sides up first before you then do the other bits, is that going to help all your blocks to be a consistent size?
I would say so.
Okay.
You've just got...
Sorry everyone, just my own
No,
personal lesson here.
It's all these little things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Things that I've learnt along the way that sort of help you make the block with the least amount of stress and concern, really. And then I'm just going to pop another pin in along here, just easing that slightly. Just needs to be stretched, if you like, but it's just making the fabric fit ultimately.
Okay. I do love the stripy fan. I like them both, and I think the combination of the two on the quilt's great.
It just means if you've got a real focus fabric, a feature fabric, let's say that you did buy the long quarters of the Tildas when they were on offer, and you thought, actually, the one with the lady on, you wouldn't want to chop into her necessarily, would you? So you could have her in your main fan.
But if you had little tiny scrappy bits left of some fabrics, you could cut a blade here and there, couldn't you, and make yourself a fan up. So Sylv's saying about getting the quilt made out of your 2 kits.
Yeah.
It's about getting creative with your fabric as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Cutting your pieces that you want. And then just mixing and matching the others through.
Absolutely. If you feel that you're confident enough, there's nothing to stop you taking one blade in the middle of there.
Nice.
Don't forget you'll need to add your seam allowances on, but then you could have 2 chunky pieces either side. That would give it quite an Art Deco feel.
Hey, that would be fabulous, wouldn't it?
And likewise, you might feel that you don't want to make it all with blades. You might want to do all of it like that. You may not get as many fans out of it, but that option is there.
Lovely. Oh my word, lovely Jay Wolf. over on YouTube, down in Kent, I believe, said, I fell on mossy decking about 8 years ago. Literally did the splits sideways, dragged myself into the kitchen and called my husband, who was on the M25 at the time, and said, I think I've broken my leg. Can you come home and take me to hospital, please? I mean, that's not a call you want to get ever, is it, Jane? No. He called an ambulance, her parents, and rushed home. Off to hospital she went. She had ripped all the tendons and ligaments from her bottom to her calf. Ow. And she was black for about 8 weeks. Oh my word, that's made me wince. Crikey pops, you win. I'm just going to say, you win.
Yeah, you win accident
of all the falling overs, Syl's mentioned that she's come a cropper down some stone steps before and landed on her coccyx, and I was feeling sorry enough for her with that, but crikey bobs. And I don't really want to choose between either of those injuries, but ouch.
The temptation, I can't tell you how much the temptation is to put the wide piece at the top. Even though I've made like 18 of these blocks, I still have to stop and think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's the way our brains work. We think the wider piece has to go at the top.
That's okay. But it's a really good point, Jane. And, you know, Jane's demos will be here for you to watch back. So if you buy this kit, perhaps squirrel it away for a little while. Maybe you've got a project on the go already, and then you dig this one out in weeks or months' time. You can always view the show back.
Yeah, it's always there, isn't it,
yep.
for you to look back on.
Absolutely, and then you will have that there. You'll hear Jane say that, and you'll go, hang on a minute. So you can sew along with Jane, which would be lovely.
You know, we don't ever want you to struggle, so if there's something I've said and you're still not quite sure what I mean, you can always message us at
info@natashamakes.com,
and we will
Jane
try
will pick
and
that
help
up
as best we can.
Absolutely.
We don't like to see you struggling.
No, we most certainly do not. Chris Cresswell says, she heard recently on Radio 4 a brain trauma specialist recommended wearing a bike helmet as you walk downstairs, as most brain trauma is caused by falls down the stairs.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
Having
a bicycle helmet at the bottom of the stairs when you go up? How many of us have fallen up the stairs as well? I've done that a few times.
Many falls up the stairs. Fractured toes normally when I do things like that. Yes, do you know, if I could put a bicycle helmet on my husband 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I would, because he is that accident prone, bless him. Oh, Jane, this is coming together really nicely.
They are. I mean, they look complicated, and you do have to take your time. We're not, you know, it's not quick piecing, but they're not difficult to do. They do come together nicely. And Lynn, obviously, you know, she's done a lot of work on this and got the templates so they all interlink really nicely. There's no discrepancy. It all works beautifully.
Yes. Jane, Auntie Lizzie says Mrs. C is very impressed, thinking that this was printed, not pieced.
Oh.
We do like that. That's a bit good, isn't it?
Can I just
Your mum says Laura Ashley died as a result of a fall down the stairs. I heard this, but then there was a lot of murmuring, was there not, of suspicious circumstances? What a shame, though. It is a shame. I've known people personally who've died as a result of a fall down the stairs. Yeah. You know, be careful on the stairs, everybody.
This is it. So we've got 2 blocks there, and we've got 2 other blocks. You can mix and match them as you wish. Obviously you're going to do more, and you're going to do them in rows, and what happens is in your pattern there's some squares that you need to cut, and I'm just going to show you. You'll have small squares, and both of them you're going to cut in half from point to point across the diagonal to make triangles.
This is Jane's CGR 24 ruler. That's the 6 inch by 24 inch. We have not got these in stock at the moment, which is a shame because they are your staple, aren't they?
They are. I love this ruler, and I think, you know, if you're buying a ruler for the first time, this is the one that you need.
That's the first one.
It will do most things. Having the small one is lovely, but if you want to cut long sides like this, So like for this one, if I was trying to cut this with this size ruler, you can
Which is
see
the shorter version, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
12-inch, but the same width.
you're not quite going to be able to get there.
You're guessing, aren't you?
You are.
You're guessing
You
and then
can-
moving the ruler.
Cut halfway and line it up.
But it might not quite hit the point.
You can line it up on your mat.
Mm-hmm.
So from point to point on the line there, that also gives you a guide. So you'd cut halfway, keep your rotary cutter still, and move your ruler up against the edge of it
Mm-hmm.
while you then cut the rest of it.
However.
But get one of these ones. It's much easier.
Or a big easy.
It's a much easier one to do. Oh yeah, the Big Easy is like ultimate.
They didn't have a big easy when you got your one of these, did they?
No.
Nor when I got my one of these either.
And you're going to cut more of the bigger ones than you do of the small ones. The small ones are your corners, so obviously whatever size you cut, you're only going to need 4. So your corner, once you've laid your blocks out in the formation that you feel is the nicest one, you might want to have both your blades there and your two. You're going to do more, and you can lay them out. And I just sort of went higgledy-piggledy with mine, as you can see, because I've got some that are blades together and the same colour, and some that are different, all sorts of things like that.
Nice.
So you're going to need to have, and I don't know that I can do, I can't show you on this because you would have pieces like this and like this, you see, for your corners. With mine, those 4 there, they're just to go together straight forward into a square. But you'd have your small one there,
Mm-hmm.
and you would sew that onto there.
Yes.
And again, you'd probably want to find the middle of this
Okay.
block, pinching.
Yep.
Be careful because it's on a bias, and pinching.
Yeah, don't stretch it.
Place those together, and then you can see it's got an overhang
Yeah.
either side. You would put that one on there, and then you would take 2 of your large triangles,
Mm-hmm.
and you would have them one facing that way
Ah.
and one facing that way.
Gotcha.
And then with your rows, you would have one that way, and then down here when we came to put that one on.
So Jane, you're effectively creating your rows on the diagonal.
Yes.
So you're creating one here, then you'll put
Putting
all
them
those
on
bits
point,
together,
yeah.
and then, gotcha. Okay.
And then you'll put that one on there, and that will sit along the bottom there. And then your next one down, you'll make one like this, but it would be facing the opposite way for your corner. It's all explained, the layout, in the instruction, like so. You can see how it goes together there. And you
Oh,
make it
look,
in
beautiful.
rows,
Yes.
and your ultimate, if you make it this size,
Yeah.
that row will have the 2 other corners in there. Just be careful on these side pieces because these triangles are cut on a bias, so
Yeah.
this edge here will be stretchy.
Okay.
So use your best press, your flatter,
Yeah.
your spray starch, whatever you want to use on these squares,
Yes.
so that you've got less movement of fabric on these edges because they are biased edges, whereas this one is, you'll get the straight of grain on the corners.
Fabulous. So yeah, put the whole quilt round on point effectively,
Yes.
don't you?
And for those
Beautiful.
of you that follow me on my Instagram page, and I posted a picture of the quilt top and said,
Mhm.
am I going to be brave enough to use my long arm on it? No, I wasn't. I wasn't brave enough. I tried, but I couldn't get the effect I wanted. I still
No.
need to do more practice.
That's all right.
So I basted it on my long
You did.
arm,
So you did use it a bit.
and then quilted it on my domestic machine.
There's a very famous saying I used to use at the beginning of all my beginner classes when I was teaching, because I teach in the beauty industry,
Yeah.
and that was, an expert in anything was once a beginner.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, we all have to start,
We
and we
do.
all have to try, and we all have to
Yeah.
learn. So
Absolutely. We all learn, and you know, you learn things all the time. I've learned things from Lynn's pattern that I probably didn't even think of before, and I thought, oh, that's clever.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're learning all the time. You know, I think if you're not learning something, you're not doing anything, are you really?
No. And there's different methods for everything as well.
Yes.
You know, it's not like there's one definitive way to do each thing. There's
No,
quite often a
absolutely not.
myriad of different ways.
Absolutely.
And learning those is, it's all part of the journey, is it not?
Yes. But I think 4 blocks together would make a nice cushion as well.
Really would.
You put
Really
4 blocks
would.
together and put a board around it. Be fine.
Or a nice table centre.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Oh, my tummy's rumbling. And I know my microphone is quite loud. Picks up everything. Sorry about that, everybody. If you heard that, I think it's time for the calf shortly. It's only 11:15. It's 11s, Jane.
Yes,
11s.
These 11s.
Auntie Lizzie says
already.
practice makes perfect. It does indeed.
It is.
Sue is clearly the most accident prone in the world, like accident prone person ever. Honestly, just the little things that keep coming up, I can't mention anymore. We'll get taken down for graphic content of how people get hurt different ways. There are people having conversation about Elton last night singing
Yes.
at Glastonbury. I haven't seen any footage yet, but I will because I love Elton. Absolutely love Elton. Possibly love Taron Egerton when he played Elton a little bit more. Has anyone seen that film? Have we all seen that film? Rocket Man.
Yes, I've seen it.
Excellent film. Might have watched it more times than I can count. Here we go. Oh, and Julia says the bungalow has many advantages. Yes, where there's no stairs, there are fewer accidents, I'm sure. Sylv also said, Jane, when you mentioned about possibly putting a stripe down the middle of the fan
Yes.
for an Art Deco effect, she said you could have one wider blade in the centre and then strips either side getting narrower towards the edge.
You certainly
You could if you were
could.
clever, for
Yes.
sure. That would look stunning.
It would.
Why don't you make one, Sylv, and send us a picture? We'd like to see
Yeah.
that. That'd be marvellous. Yes, and Julia says excellent film. Yes, it was an excellent film. I agree. It's all people saying about wincing. Oh dear. Ooh. Yes, let's have nice, cheerful conversations tomorrow that don't involve injuring ourselves. Natasha is going to be here tomorrow. She is.
Yes.
Tomorrow, she'll be making a hat.
A nice sun hat.
A fabulous, reversible sun hat.
Yeah.
You may have seen her on social media wearing it in her fabulous
Looking
cave
rather
fabrics.
fabulous,
That have
yes.
come in.
The lovely tan.
She looks gorgeous with those
Doesn't
sunglasses
she?
as well. It all matches beautifully. But she will be here to show us this tomorrow, which is great. And then Jane, Wednesday, she's got another make using some stunning Anna Maria Horner fabrics. And on Friday, it's Pay It Forward Day.
Oh gosh, is it Friday? Yes,
I know.
that's Friday the
No rest for the wicked. Next week, however, Jane, you'll be back.
9th. Yes.
You'll be here.
I've got
We'll
some
stitchy
nice cave.
witchery.
I've
You
got some
have.
nice cave, and that's all I'm saying.
Nope. and a bit of clever cutting.
Yeah.
Clever cutting, which we always like. Go outside and enjoy the sunshine, everybody. Please do make... Oh, no banner up today, Gemma. I beg your pardon. Dear me. Let's have a look. Shall I make sure that that is here and tagged immediately, if not sooner? Thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy's just telling me how to do my job, which I very, very much appreciate, because clearly
It's always nice to know.
I've not pressed
You're paying
enter.
attention.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Not pressed enter. So, yeah, there we go. It's there for you, my love. It's there for you. SJ normally notices if I haven't pressed enter and does it for me. But there you go.
It's easily done, I should imagine.
Oh, Auntie Lizzie loves a hat and says bye. Thank you all. We will see you tomorrow. We'll see you for the hat.
Yes.
Thank you for the reminder, Jimmy. Do go out and enjoy the sunshine. As far as these kits go, I can see they're selling. We have a limited number. If you love it, grab it. If you love it and want a really big one, grab 2. They are an introductory price and the pattern's for free. So what's not to love? Jane, we're going to crack on.
Yeah,
Got more things to do.
we have.
Orders to get out, shows to prepare.
This is it.
No rest for the wicked. You take care now. Thank you for joining us. We are very grateful, as always. Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.